very much. Didn't understand any of it, but I hope it was a compliment. I'm here to talk about measuring our way to future success. Now, if some of you have seen this presentation online during the couple of weeks, it has kind of changed radically since I first started holding it, but it still has the same message, and I'm looking very forward to holding it for you. This is the problem or the issue at hand, which is that Microsoft, back in 2010 said that 80% of what Europeans are doing online today didn't exist in their lives 5 years ago. Which means 5 years ago, we didn't have this. This didn't exist in people's lives 5 years ago. We didn't have Facebook. Online was somewhere you went to visit people's web pages, to read stuff. We didn't have smartphones. You picked up your phone to phone people. Your phone had plastic buttons. It didn't change. It was the same phone when you threw it away 2 years later compared to when you bought it. Now the question, why is this important, is because the business follows suit. Is 80% of what business is doing today different from what they're doing 5 years ago? And I suggest that it is not. Now, Jeff Bezos says that this is a problem because we've gotten so used to doing what we did 5 years ago that we're not moving forward, and we're not exploring and finding out how the internet and how the net is moving forward. And he says that we are in the light bulb stage of electricity. So I'll say what Jeff Bezos said. He says, when the light bulb came to New York, when they rolled out the electricity net in New York, they did it because of the light bulb. So they rolled out the electricity in New York to fit the light bulb. They didn't see the potential of what electricity could do to every home and every business in New York. And we are at the same stage today with broadband. We are rolling out this whole network across the city to get people's machines connected to the internet, to help people do emailing, to help people build websites. But we haven't even started to see where this future is taking us. We are treating online today basically as a distribution medium. We are measuring it as a thing that distributes people and content from A to B, which is not close to what it actually can be for businesses. Now, the problem we are having with this, the reason we're kind of 5 years behind the consumers, is partly because the language we're using is still stuck back in the 2000s, and partly because we're measuring completely the wrong things. And I believe one of the former speakers were talking about quantitative measures, and I think that is completely right, but it's also much, much bigger than that. So, this is my take on the internet, and this is how I'm going to present the problem to you. First of all, the internet is incredibly simple. The only problem is that what we do, we drag this cloak of technology over the internet. And we completely complicate what we're trying to do and how we're trying to think about what we're supposed to do online, which makes us misunderstand what this tool really is. Let me give you two examples, which is two simple examples, but still. This is a new content service from Norway. And the first thing it does is tell me that the online password I use for every other service in this universe isn't good enough for Komoyo. Now, why on earth would they do such a thing? That's the first impression, that's the first thing they're giving me. Why are we technologically complicating the world when it's supposed to be so simple? I think Seth Godin said, if the computer is so smart, why do I have to do all the work? Which is a good take on it. Now, this is the other one. This is the biggest bank in Norway, which has about 2/4 of the nation connected to it. Just 2 or 3 days ago, they released their new online bank. Now, this is their online bank at the early stage, so it's without the branding on it. But the point is that how do you achieve your most loyal customers? Is it by shitting all over their online tools? You see, because what we tend to do online is that we think of everything as a media tool. So if you go to, a lot of people they talk about, at least in Norway, they talk about, you got your own media channels, you got your purchased media channels, and you got your deserved media channels. But they all talk about media channels. But online banking is not a media channel, it's a service. People have a bank because they want to become better at their online financial services. So why is then this online banking doing everything except online banking on their online bank? There's a lot of online banking. So, this is the internet. It's a loaf of bread. This is how simple it is. A loaf of bread is an exceptionally sophisticated piece of technology. There's a lot of chemistry and a lot of growing a lot of different stuff to put into the bread to make a bread. But nobody calls bread technology anymore. And this is how everything starts out. Everything starts out as technology, and as soon as it becomes implemented into our society and it becomes usual stuff, we stop thinking of it as technology, and it becomes something we actually can use. This is the same with the alphabet. The alphabet is a very sophisticated technology. Language, speaking is a technology. Asphalt is technology. Your clothing is technology. Now, we don't call these things technology, but the two businesses represented in this room, they continue to insist that the internet is some kind of technology. Now, my mom would never be on Facebook if she thought Facebook was a technology. So why do we treat Facebook, why do we treat online as technology? And doing it completely destroys the ability we have to actually see what this thing can do for our business. Okay, so let's get back to the 80%. So 80% of what consumers are doing online today didn't exist in their lives 5 years ago. What does this mean? Well, first of all, it means that we moved from something called the web to something called the net. Or we didn't move, but we kind of expanded to something called it. That's as a forerunner to this presentation, it was called outside, because we, in our industry, also continue to misunderstand the future. We always think the future is straight in front of us, which gives the impression that in order to move forward, you have to kill off something behind you. That's why people who love the internet, they say that the TV is going to die. But nothing ever dies. I think there's only one technology that ever died, and it was the old accounting system of the old Aztecs. Everything else is in perfect order and perfect shape. So, as we expand and get more opportunities, what we're seeing is that we're moving from the web and outside to something called the net. And then this guy called Claude London, which is the head of interactive at the part of the BBC, he says that my father was a particle physicist at CERN, and he was a part of inventing the internet. But I wouldn't trust him near a media group. This is the first thing businesses do wrong. They treat this as a media channel. They treat this as their online strategy. This is a website. This is the website for the National Airport in Norway. And it's an information service. It's a perfect information service. It's a very good service for people who want to know when and where people fly, when and where. But it's not an online strategy, because it's just a small part of what you should do online. It's just a small part of the digital service. And it's not a media channel. This is an example from Norway, but when a lot of companies in Norway, they purchase massive amounts of advertising in media, and then they send people to places like this. They send people from media channels, from newspapers and television, and they send them to an information service, which is maybe the most boring thing you can ever send people to. And it kills off the customer straight away. I think we saw just recently that one of the most impressive media traffic buys we ever had, I think it was maybe 700 times as much response we got from that purchase compared to everything else. Got people onto our website, and we sent them to something like this, and they were there for 8 seconds. Which is useless. You can't do anything in 8 seconds. So, we're moving from the web and to something bigger called online. And then this is the really interesting part of what's happening right now, because this is kind of the spectrum where we're working, and we're saying that marketing communications has always been in the promising business. Now, you're either in advertising, or you're telling the customer, if you buy our product, we promise you that you will get a better experience, that you will achieve something, that you will feel better. But we always promise our consumers something more. Now, if you're in the design or the PR industry, you talk to the brand and you ask them, okay, what do you want to be to your customers? And then we start designing solutions, helping the brand become what they want to become. So, and all this is done on kind of on surfaces, on media channels or on surfaces. And it's just promises, promises, promises. And this is where marketing communications has been for a very long time in the promising business. When it comes to the proof of the pudding, we haven't been able to touch it. Because somebody else in the company is designing the products. Somebody else in the company is designing the things that people actually buy and actually use. So we kind of promise a lot of things, and then we're not able to help the company improve it. And this is now all changing with digital. Because with digital, we are starting to design the interfaces and interactions between people and brands, or people and companies. Now, an example of this is online banking. So, one of my colleagues got a brand survey from a big bank a couple of weeks ago, and it started out with, "What do you think of our branches?" And I was like, "I haven't been to a bank branch for 20 years, how would I know?" Second question, "What do you think of our customer advisors?" "Well, it's a bank, I haven't talked to a customer advisor for maybe 3 or 4 years, how would I know?" Not one question about online banking. Now, where do you meet your bank every week? Online banking. And this is kind of the example that this is where people actually get the impression of what a lot of products and services are. It's through these interfaces that we can design between people and products. To put it in another way, we've always been in the business of how do we create the correct expectations. Marketing communications has been about creating the correct expectations and communicating them to people. And now we've moved on, we're still doing a lot of that, but we're also doing how do we deliver on these services. It's a completely different industry. So this is Yellow Pages in Norway, and we're seeing that in the beginning they had the thing on the top, your left, the website. It was perfect, it was good, it was good for consumers. And then they started to think, okay, but we're not really giving our customers a good enough service. We need to rethink what kind of things we do with our customers and what kind of things we do with people who use our service. And so we started building all these iPhone applications for companies buying advertising from them, which was a banner, it was an administration system and a statistical system. And then for the consumers, they started building all these new tools for finding locations and finding information. And they see now that they're moving from this online thing on the top left and to all these other interfaces. Now they're not building apps and they're not building things for the iPad, they're building new meeting places, new interfaces between the brand and the consumer. An interesting point is that when they ask the consumer says, "We're much more happy about the stuff you're making for us on these iPhones and these iPads compared to the stuff that you're making for us on the PC." And of course, online banking. This is where where banks should prove to customers that they come to the right place. And what are they doing? This is my bank. This is why I'm very frustrated with this bank. Where is my online banking? It's 10% of the interface in the middle there. That's my online banking. And it makes online banking maybe the most boring thing in the world. And does banking have to be the most boring thing in the world? I don't think so. Okay, so I'll move on to a bit more sophisticated examples. I'll voice over the sound myself. So this is the new thing from Lego. So what you're buying from Lego is the original products, but you're also buying, or you can also download this free iPhone application. So you get your box home in the mail, you open it up, there's a sheet of paper there, and there's a lot of Lego things. And then you open up the application and it says, okay, build a guitar and start. And then you start the timer and you build a guitar and you put the guitar on the sheet and then you take a photograph of it. And voila, you get points. Yeah? That is taking a very, very physical object and designing an experience next to that object, next to that product, and actually creating a total new consumer experience. Now this is where my point is that these experiences shouldn't just be something we're doing because technology allows us to do it. These experiences should be something we're doing because positioning strategy and marketing strategy is telling us to do it. So we will be the designers and the inventors of the products of the future, not the product design department. That's my overall statement. And the third thing fourth thing, is what happens when objects get connected to the internet. Because if you look at your online strategy today, I will guess that 98% of the people in this room, they have a website and they buy banner applications. And they may be thinking about doing a phone application, and we are already on Facebook, but it's a consumer service kind of thing. And all of this is on screens. Everything demands a screen. But what we're seeing now is that more and more stuff is being connected to the internet. And that sounds very Martian, but it's very, very, very interesting. These numbers are from Verizon. We're seeing the same in Norway, and the advanced nation of the Netherlands, or maybe I think it's most advanced in Europe, they're probably already seeing the same numbers. We are connecting, in Norway the number is 5 million people living in Norway, and there will be 50 million SIM cards distributed in 2015. So maybe if people own 3 machines connected to the internet, there will still be 45 million things. And there's this futurist in Norway called Jon Bing, and he says that in the future, your washing machine won't start because it knows there's a red sock in amongst all the whites. And then he says, if you take out the red sock and scan it with your phone, it tells you where the other sock is in the house. That is the future, people. Now, the interesting thing is, how do we capitalize on it? How do we earn money on that? And hopefully, I'll be giving you some examples that can show you some of it. So this is the first thing. This is a guy called Rafi Halijan who built the rabbits. And you ask him, why did you build the rabbits? And he said, no idea. But it's the future of something interesting. It's connecting things. It's creating services that has no screens. And the other thing is mobile, because when everything in the world, if you're a shoe, and there's already shoes connected to the internet, I know most people know about Microsoft, so when shoes are connected to the internet, how will these shoes communicate with us? How will the sock communicate with us? How will these things communicate with us? And it's usually through your mobile phone. So the least interesting thing about mobile is actually the mobile phone. Because it's just the hub that connects everything else to us. That's very exciting. So I'll give you, I've stolen something from 2007. And it's hopefully with sound, if not I have to restart the keynote, of a guy called Kevin Slavin, who in 2007 does a presentation on mobile, and I've kind of edited out about 2 minutes from that clip. I'll restart keynote. If not, I'll try to do it myself, which would be... Okay, I'll do it. He has a very nice New York accent. But what he talks about is, what's interesting with the phone is not people talking to each other. What's interesting is when the phone starts talking to the environment around it. And he has 5 examples of this. And one of them is a ball. Now, you buy it's a toy, so you buy the ball and you have this glove on. And the glove has a sensor in it, and when you throw the ball, the recipient has a sensor, and the ball knows where it is, and the ball knows how long it's traveled, not how long, but how long it's been in the air, and it knows where it is, basically. And then he talks about a taco truck, which tweets to people its position. And then he talks about the Nike Plus thing, which is a sensor in the shoe that gives you feedback on how far you've kind of run. Yeah, I'm out speaking. And then he talks about a plant. Because today you can buy a sensor, you can put it into a plant, and the plant tweets you when it needs water. And when you give it water, it tweets you and says thank you. And then the third thing is that they were doing a game for Discovery Shark Channel, and they were putting GPS senders on white sharks in the Pacific, and the positioning of the white sharks was sent to a server, and you could actually be playing a game online where you actually were trying to hunt down sharks in real life. And he shows a picture of the shark, and he says, if you can connect this thing to the internet, you can connect everything to the internet. Now his point being that the mobile is maybe the least interesting thing in this whole thing called the internet, in this whole thing called mobile. Mobile is a ball and a shark and a taco truck and a shoe and a plant, which is the thing. It is, as it says, it's about the world talking to the world through these kinds of networks. That's what's interesting about this stringless internet. So we've got examples like the water cable. The water cable is quite sweet. It's a little plasticky thing. You put it in the shower, you shower once, and then it measures how long it's been in the water, because it's on the bottom of the shower. And then, when you go in the next time, it starts blinking green. And when you get closer to how the amount of time you spent in the shower the last time, it starts measuring blinking orange. And when you're over, it blinks red. And people see this, and they see that when people use the water cable, the amount of energy used for heating warm, hot water in the house decreases by 25%. It's a little digital thing which is really beautiful and has a large impact. And then there's this thing called, this is a garden center thing, because this thing is called Botanicals. It costs about 50 euros, go and buy it online, it's really funny. You can build it yourself. But then a Japanese company called NTT Docomo, which is the biggest telecom provider in Japan, I think, they built their own plant sensoring thing. So you put this, you get this thing from your telecom provider, you put it into the soil around the plant, and then it doesn't send you a tweet when it needs water, it measures the whole environment of the soil around your plant, and it sends the data back to NTT Docomo. And NTT Docomo, which is a telecom provider, they've hired gardeners to give people feedback on their planting skills, or how do you get a better garden. Now the interesting thing about this is it's a bit crazy, I do admit, but are we really thinking outside the box when we're thinking new business models? Are we really doing the exploration? Because NTT Docomo, they're in the telecom communications business. And telecom communications is not about talking to each other. It's not about mobile phones. It's about communication. And isn't this something that's got, to a very high degree, something to do with communication? It might as well be the future of communication. And then there's the Copenhagen Wheel, which is, this was done for the Copenhagen 15, that big environmental thing. Is there still no sound on this thing? It's very strange, there's only one soundtrack. Anyways, I know this example as well. So this red thing on the back wheel, it's not only an electrical engine which has to bike around in Denmark, but it's also a sensor that measures the noise and the pollution and the positioning and the time of your environment. So if you go into the online, the mobile phone application, you can see how far you've ridden and what you've done and all those things. But it also measures the pollution. So this is the CO2 emission, or the NOx emission, and it measures it all through the city. And the interesting thing is that is when this is connected, when all the people add their data, you get a whole city map of where it's noise pollution and where it's carbon pollution at what time of day and whatever. So you get this whole kind of map of the city. Yeah, I'll just end it. Okay, so number 5, the 80%. We're back to the 80%. Because what we're seeing with the 80%, we saw that we're moving from the web to the net and all those crazy things. And we're also seeing that we're moving, or we're expanding from the net being a response medium. And this is the thing about we're not moving forward, we're moving kind of outside. Because a lot of companies are selling things based on price. And they still can do that. Banner advertising is still successful for everybody else than the media companies. And it's a good investment because it's way too cheap to buy. And a lot of businesses are built around response. So I'm not going to say response is dead, I'm saying response is very much alive. But there's 80% more stuff out there that we can explore and see, does this match our positioning strategy? And if it matches our positioning strategy, should we look further into it? And the first one is, we're moving from response to relationships. Ta-da. And this is the New York Times in 2009, and they're saying, we've already had subscriptions. I think if you're an airplane company, you subscribe to Rolls-Royce engines, you don't buy them. If you're a handcrafter, you can subscribe to these jackhammers, you don't buy them. So it's not a new thing. But the internet has kind of multiplied these kinds of opportunities. So you rent cars today, you rent the cable television, you rent the internet, you rent cell phones. So the internet has made this kind of rentable space. Because people don't necessarily need to own stuff, they need access to it. So this is a new business model. So it's loyalty around having access to opportunities. It's being a member of something in order to have access to what you want. And this kind of idea completely changed the music industry. That's a really huge question about the music industry. I won't go further into it, but you can see this whole big thing everybody thought was really, really, really stuck actually completely changed. A lot of it completely changed. And then there's, I was in Amsterdam 2-3 years ago, and I had this talk, approximately the same kind of thing, and a guy said, but that's not interesting, because you're only showing us examples of interesting products. If I'm selling bread, or if I'm selling socks, I can't do these things because it's just way too boring, which is completely wrong. Now, if you have a boring product, nobody cares about it, not even yourself, you can't do these kinds of things. But if you have something somebody out there cares about, there might be an opportunity for you to look into it. So this is a bakery, which is Exhibit 1. You can do stuff for bread. It's a local bakery. It's a small bakery in London, on one street corner in London. And they said, how do we help people get out access to our product when it's at its best? And baked goods are usually on its best when it's steaming hot, when it's right out of the oven. So they built this physical object, this box, and when the baker takes out a sheet of croissants or buns out of the oven, he just turns the dial to the product, and the box sends out a message to the people living close to the bakery, or working close to the bakery, and it says, go to Elvin's now, Elvin Bakery, and you can buy steaming hot croissants right out of the oven. It's a brilliant, really small idea. Now, I subscribed to this tweet in Oslo, and I didn't get any use out of it, but there's probably maybe 200 to 400 people just living close enough to Elvin's Bakery who wants to be a part of this. So it's a brilliant, small idea that can help a small company do great things. And then it's the second, the big one is this one. Now this is Nokia Push Button. This started out as an experiment, as a prototype competition, where they asked people to take the Nokia phone, which has a gyrometer in it, which knows which way it flips. It has a lot of different other sensors in it. Open it up, take it apart, show it you can do it. And some people started building stuff for skateboarding. So they attached parts of the phone to their feet and to their skateboard, and they measured how high they were, how long they were in the air, if they did the rotation, how quick they were going, and stuff like that. And then Burton saw this experiment and they said, we want you to put all this stuff into our clothing and our equipment. So this is a prototype project where they're putting all of these sensors into snowboarders' clothing and snowboarders' equipment and measuring what's happening. Now, if you're 5 guys going on a skiing trip and having fun in the snowboarding park or on the slopes, you also get this digital kind of layer on top of the whole real-world experience. So let's say you compete against who has the highest jump, who has the longest jump, who spends most airtime, who does the most rotations in the air, who goes down quickest in a part of the slope. Maybe if you're a ski resort, you create quests that ask people to do different kind of stuff. So there's a whole new digital layer that you can put on top of the real-world experience, which you don't get if you buy any other piece of clothing. Now, if you are 5 guys or 5 girls and you start playing this game, you can't buy anything else. You can't buy 36 or Mullet or all those things I don't know the names of, because it's only Burton who provides you this opportunity. So because of the digital service that's built on top of the physical objects, people are stuck with their physical objects. They have to continue keeping Burton, buying Burton. I will publish all of these, so you will find them online eventually. I do apologize for the sign. Now this is a thing, because in the a friend of mine when he does his speeches, he asks people to stand up. Now it's it's the end of the day, so I won't ask you to do it. But the whole kind of all people rise up, and he says, everybody who's changed electricity, telecommunications, bank or insurance company in the last 5 years, sit back down. And if there's 200 to 400 people in the room, 5 people are kept standing. Those are the loyal customers. Everybody else is employed. You see, industry, a lot of industries is turning into these things where a lot of technological or business barriers which kept people from actually changing provider are now gone, so there are no more barriers. And we're looking into how we can start designing up these digital services to rebuild the barriers. How, if I'm a bank or an insurance company, which kind of services should I offer my consumers that nobody else can offer them that makes people stick to my bank? So we got, from earlier we got rational loyalty. We're the cheapest grocery store. You always go to us because we're the cheapest. You got emotional loyalty. We have the story you best connect to, so you always come to us because you like our story the best. And now we've got functional loyalty. You stick with us because we've got the best services. This is what we're trying to design. The second part is from information to activity. Now, the internet is not an information storage unit. It's really interesting. I remember just a couple of years ago, you went to a business to consumer site, and it was a lot of pictures, a lot of text. It was really nice and interesting. You went to the business part of the company, and it was just text. It was as if what people love doing online is reading stuff. And where is the worst place you could read something? It's on the screen. Because you spend 1.5 times as much time reading stuff on the screen. If it's on an online website, nobody reads the text at its fullest. Nobody reads it chronologically. Still, the internet has kind of been this information thing. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing a difference in this because we're seeing that what the internet can do just as well is help people with activities. Now, if you're trying to create loyal customers, do you do this through blasting them with more and more information, or could a service do just as good a job? If I have a mobile application that continuously shows me how much money I spend on my phone provider, is this as good a service as the telephone provider sending me these pamphlets in the mail every second week? I think in the media industry, we have this marketing industry, we have this thing that we think that information is the way we create and keep consumers. But it's not necessarily information anymore. It might as well be helping people do stuff that's important and makes our products better. And this is Domino's. Domino's is a pizza place in America, and they've got a lot of criticism for their customer service and their pizzas. It tastes like cardboard. And they said, okay, we can never make the best pizzas, but we can make good enough pizzas. We have to become better at something else. And they decided they would be the best deliverers of pizza, which is an interesting category choice. They didn't send out millions and millions of direct marketing messages to people saying we are the best deliverers because we have these new brand values. But they made an application which helped people monitor the progress of pizza. So if you bought a pizza from Domino's, you could go online and you could find out where in the value chain of producing pizza my pizza actually was. Okay, it's in the oven. Okay, it's out of the oven. It's getting its things on it. It's in the car. It's on its way here. It's just 5 minutes away. Put the cut there on the table. So the main application, just as well. If you're a museum, now I know museums online and on mobile phones, they love telling people more stuff about what they have in the museum. And it's a reading experience, and it might be a video experience. This is something completely different. You go out into New York City, and instead of reading about architect projects that never happened, you can take up your phone, and you can look through the screen, and the camera is filming what's on the other side, and it adds a layer of the building that how it was thought to be positioned in that place. So you can actually see all those buildings that never became reality through your phone inside the city at correct GPS locations. So that's a different way of thinking about it. Or this thing, which is, yeah, it's kind of a surprise at the end of the video. But I guess that's not very fun. But it looks brilliant, doesn't it? It looks really, really nice. Now the thing with this, it's not an app. It's not a website that has a lot of fancy features on it. It is the user manual of the car. So inside the car, in the glove compartment, there is an iPad. And on this iPad is a completely interactive system that guides you and tells you and lets you experience and invest in understanding your car. It's a luxury model car, of course. I wouldn't do this to a Ford Fiesta. And then it's really fun doing these voiceover things. This is an iPad application from Pioneer, Pioneer. And it lets you, the first thing it lets you do is remote control your amplifier from the iPad, which is okay, it's interesting. Now the second thing is that it lets you tweak the sound, pinch it, make the right adjustments according to what kind of voice, what kind of treble, what kind of bass you want. And the third thing it does, it measures the sound qualities of the room you're in. So it does a sound test in your room, and you get the graphical output, and you can kind of, based on the graphical input that it has measured its way to, you can redesign your room, or you can redesign the sound in your room to get the most out of your amplifier. Which is beautiful. Okay. One of the first things people tell me when I do these things is they say, "That's brilliant, but could we really demand more time from our consumers? Aren't we pushing them enough on time? Do they really care as much about the product as we do? Do they want to spend this amount of time with us?" And this is, yeah, that's good. And it's not about time. That's the old way of thinking about it. It's about quality. Because it's not necessarily the amount of time people will spend with our brand or our services that's important. It's the quality they get out of it. Because you see, people never measure a brand as their inexperience, they always measure it afterwards. And there's a brilliant example of this from the United States. There was a usability agency who did some research and asked people what they thought of Ask.com compared to Amazon.com. And the answer they got back was so frustrating, they put a lid on the research and didn't dare tell anybody about it for a couple of years. Now what did the research found? So they asked people to go and find something on Ask.com, and they measured the time. And then they asked people to go into Amazon.com and measure the time. And then they asked people afterwards which was the better experience. Now on Ask.com, people spent 3 seconds. And on Amazon.com, people spent 37 seconds. And the answer from the people using these things was that Amazon.com is by far the better service. It's got nothing to do with time, it's the quality of the service experience. And the reason was that Amazon had far better answers than Ask.com. So, if you look at the hotel industry, so if you're a business traveler, you travel 3 or 4 times a week, and you're late for your flight, you're late for your taxi, and you're getting into the line at the reception area, and there's a Norwegian family in front of you which speaks exceptionally bad English, and they're just spending enormous amounts of time which you don't have the time for. Why not supply the business-to-business consumer with an application that lets him check out from the hotel in the taxi? No? He will spend a lot less time with the brand because he won't be in our reception area for 15 minutes, but he will get a much better experience from the hotel. So it's not about quantity, it's about quality. If you look at the airport systems now, you get these self-check-in machines, which are supposed to make life better for travelers. Until the time everybody went to self-check-ins. And if you look at the self-check-in line, it's about 150 meters. And you look at the I need help check-in, and it's about 3 people. And you're not allowed to stand in the queue. But you see, technology can remove bottlenecks, and it can add added value. That's the thing we do. We're not creating stuff to make people spend more time with us. We're creating better experiences with us. This is a brilliant example from the banking world again. The top one is my former bank, which had a mobile application, which gave me an opportunity to check how much money I had on my account. So I changed banks, and I got the iPhone application on the bottom, which lets me see what they posted on Facebook and YouTube for the last half an hour, which I'm not really into. It helps me to their version of the map application, even though the iPhone has a built-in map application that might be the best thing in the world. It helps me with, there's 2 pages of buttons in. On the other page there's a video telling me about retirement funding. And they look at their statistics, and their statistics tells them that what people want to do in their online bank is check their account. 95% of people want to check their account. So why on earth are they doing all these things to me? Because they think it's a media channel. They don't understand the value of the service. So, in all of this, what is the role of effect? Finally, we got to effect. Because what we're doing today is we're treating online as a distribution device of people and content. We're measuring quantitative measures. How are we transporting people and content from A to B? It doesn't give us the opportunity to see the opportunities, because effect isn't only a measure of the success of something we did, it's also the only ability we have to see what we're supposed to be doing. And if you look at online, you look at Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a highly priced product, but it also might be the worst thing that ever happened to online. Because getting feedback from Google Analytics is so incredibly simple, it turns us off from everything that's difficult to measure. And one of the things that become important to a company is what's easy to measure. It's not necessarily the thing that is important to measure. And I've experienced during the last 3 years in the business that companies are coming to me to a larger and larger extent and ask me to do things, and the success of it should be measured by what we're able to measure through Google Analytics. And if the goal is to raise brand awareness or to create loyalty, Google Analytics is not truthful. So, we're saying there's a range of different types of effects, but we're saying at least try to look at these 5 categories of effect. The first one is the response effect. We're really good at it today. We should continue to be good at it. The second one is the brand platform. We are measuring traditional media in a way today we could only dream of to measure online media. And there's no reason why online initiatives shouldn't be measured by the same factors that we are measuring traditional media. Because they can do the same thing. The third one is measure for change, which we know we're also very good at, measuring our own website every week to see if we should do improvements. And the fourth thing is measuring stuff we don't know yet. Now, in the words of our favorite politician, Don Rumsfeld, he said, there are things we know, that is a given. And then there are things we know, we don't know, which is also okay. But then there are the things we don't know, and that is the problem. And that is the problem online as well. There are so much things out there we don't know. And we need to start, at least try to start exploring these things in order to understand where the 80% is taking us. Because today we're stuck at 20%. If we don't measure it, we don't see it. So we need to, just some examples. Are we measuring customer growth? What is the value of a customer from day A to day 35? Are we measuring the value of growth in our customers online? Are we measuring the value of a relationship? If our business is in the loyalty business, if it's more important for us to have a loyal customer for 10 years than selling more to one customer for 1 month, are we measuring the value of this relationship? Are we measuring our functional barriers? Are we measuring the effect of the services we're building in order to see if we're actually able to keep customers loyal? Are we measuring category drivers? Are we actually telling people stuff that's relevant for our category? Are we selling alcohol based on the completely wrong things online? We don't know. Google Analytics doesn't tell us this. Are we delivering on positioning strategy? Are we creating direct business effect? We don't know. See, we don't know these things because we don't measure them. Okay, we don't see things because we don't measure them. Okay, so we are the 80%. That's important. We have to explore, not all of us, but most of us are the 80%. We need to start thinking and exploring what's in the rest of the internet. What is in the rest of the world that we're not looking at? And the role of marketing just became something completely different because we moved from the promising industry and into the proof industry. We are now creating the experiences that will shape the brand. We're not leaving that to somebody else. And this presentation hasn't been published yet, but if you want to send me a link of some of the stuff or some of the things you've seen with sound attached to it, I will gladly do. That's my Twitter thing. So just send me something, ask me for it, and I'll do as best as I can. Thank you.